What you are about to see is an on-site recorded testimony filmed on August 19, 2023, in Prosser, Washington. The two eyewitnesses currently reside in Portland, Oregon. I, Jacob S. Guerra, lead investigator for CC Media, the County of Marion, as well as the Ropen Network, am conducting this interview with Peter Beach and Milt Marcy to better understand their eyewitness accounts of strange, unexplained phenomena. This recording will be used to further the education process of unknown animals related to this field of research.
All right, I'm a microbiologist, a pathogenic bacteriologist, virologist, and parasitologist for about 30 years in the public health laboratory. I've also taught college entrance chemistry, physics, and biology, and also taught a course in macroeconomics. And that's my background is master's of biology, master's of microbiology, and a master's in business administration.
I see. So tell me, this is a different field that we're talking about compared to most times, but it does tie in a little bit. So what got you started on the field of cryptozoology?
Well, I do nothing in cryptozoology. I think that these are rare animals, and I think cryptids sort of speaks of something hidden, and I don't think they're hidden as much as they're just rare. But the way I got in was Milt Marcy. Milt, in our Bible study, decided one day that he was going to talk to us about things that were going on in Africa. I wasn't paying that much attention, but I did hear Africa and dinosaur put together. And he was funding people to go over there and look for this living dinosaur. I thought that was weird. And then as with years went on, maybe 6 months went on, he came to our group and he said that I'm looking for somebody to go over there. I can't go over there right now. And I had been retired for a short period of time, and I just responded with, I'll do it. It sounded like fun. It sounded like an adventure. I love those things. And I didn't even know what Milt was talking about, really. Makilimimbi. That sounds interesting. What is it? He said it was a living dinosaur. It looks something like a four-legged apatosaurus. I didn't know what a apatosaurus looked like, but I thought, it sounds like a big animal. And so he sent me over there. I think you should talk to Milt about that.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this question real fast, mate. I've been told that you are
Don't make me a professor. I was a quasi-professor. For one course for macroeconomics, I was an adjunct professor at a university, and the kids got college credit for it.
I see. Yeah, I will say this. When I read links that have your name associated with them, it does have me down as professor. So I just wanted to bring that up.
I didn't do that.
Okay. That's good. Those are things we have to clarify. I want to make sure that's
sure.
Okay. You now are going to be called professor by me from now on. No, what is give us a little bit of background about you, son?
Okay. Well, I became a first creation scientist back not too long after I began in Adam Christian, and I became aware of the perplexing prints. That is down in Texas, where they're human footprints with dinosaur prints, like a boss. And I went down twice. It was very fortuitous both times. First time in '93, I went down, and I got there when the river was at its lowest, and I got there the same day that Doc Patton was there to take some videos of the Taylor Trail. He didn't have anybody to help him, so I know him take those videos. Sometimes you see those videos still on the internet today. Then 4 years later, in '97, I went down again, And so it happened I got there the week they started the public day. And so we spent a week out on the river looking for human prints in conjunction with dinosaur prints. The second or third day I was there, I was washing out a depression, and far along was waiting the day. So come here, look and see what Milt's discovered. I didn't know I discovered anything. He said, wash that out a little bit more. So I washed it out a little bit more, and there, lo and behold, inside of a big dinosaur print was a human print. And he had a couple of young ladies come over and put their foot in there, fit perfectly. And we had Joe Taylor come up from Mount Blanco, and he made a latex cast of that print. I took videos of the print, and I got pretty excited about those prints. And I saw many other prints while I was there. It convinced me that was perfect proof that dinosaur and man had together. I tried to get several people that were influential in that business interested in making a documentary on it. I could not do it because by that time, the stains theory was out there, and people were backing off the prints. And of course, I have since many times thought that they were really intimidated, because never anywhere else in the world that I know of do ancient creatures make stains.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about it. But modern evolutionists, they know about iron oxide. And I can guarantee you that before there was an evolutionist with a crowbar that was destroying one of the best prints on the river in the middle of the night, and it was caught. But of course, us creationists, a lot of times, and Christians in general, back off from controversy. But the main thing is I couldn't get people interested. So I was kind of in a holding pattern. Then a few years later, I met Bill Gibbons, who was looking for the sauropod-type creature in Central Africa.
Yeah.
And so I was standing in line after Bill had spoke, and I thought I could probably give him about $6,000 toward his next expedition. I mean, I think that'd be about as much as I'd want to give. The next person in line, before I got to talk to Bill, said, when are you going back to Africa? And Bill said, well, it's easier for Benny Hinn to get $150,000 than it is for me to get $6,000.
That was a combination.
$6,000. And so when I got to talk to Bill, I said, I want to see you after this meeting. We want to talk with him. So I had my son with me, and we talked with Bill. I funded his next expedition, which actually ends up being about 15,000. And then they had a discovery. I won't go into detail about the discovery, but it was very close to actually getting video evidence of a pterosaur or a sauropod. And so I wanted to get somebody back right away. And one of the fellows who was with Bill agreed to go back again 3 months later, but I didn't have anybody else. So I was at a Promise Keepers meeting, and Pete was there. And I said, Pete, you just retired. You're a scientist. Would you like to go? Yeah, I'll go. He didn't stop and think about it. He said, yeah, I'll go. So I said, okay, good. I got my guy. And Pete has been a blessing for the last almost 20 years.
So many people that have been a blessing in this field. You mentioned Joe Taylor.
Yeah.
Late Joe Taylor.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was real sad. Joe's added a lot to the whole.
Yes.
So anyway, Pete and I have been connected ever since then. And of course, we got involved in pterosaur research as well. He's very involved in discovering a lake creature that we're quite certain is there. It's a matter. A lot of this stuff there's a real need for funding. Seems like when the evolutionists wanted to get something, they go get a grant and get millions of dollars. But us people who are actually doing something that has truth involved, we have to scrounge to get a few thousand to do something. If we had the money they have, all of this stuff would be out now, and everybody would know about it.
It's true.
In fact, Pete and I have talked about some of the equipment we have now that if we had then, when we first started on this, we'd have proof of several of these creatures.
What kind of equipment did you have?
In the beginning, just a video camera. Later, we got a night vision little tiny scope. But Yeah, it was about like that. I tried to attach it to a camera and it really didn't work all that well. But that's what we started with in our eyes. I mean, we just went out there looking. And we saw the most amazing stuff just looking.
But when you're looking for something that you mostly only see at night, you need something more than just a regular camera.
Yeah. Yes, you do. And you can't film on something like this. So you got to have something more powerful. That's where night vision comes in. That's where thermal imaging comes in to help you on the quest to help reveal what would be in these areas. Now, we get to the important stuff of our discussion. You heard a little bit about your backgrounds, and good, very awesome as well. Now we come to this. We are here along the Yakima River of Washington State, and the rumors and reports are of colonial reptiles that are being seen all along this stretch of tributary in the state. You happen to be 2 eyewitnesses to this creature, is that correct?
Yeah.
So, I guess I'd like to know more about what your findings. Tell me more what you discovered so that people back home know that maybe something in nature. So true to all of this. That's why we do what we do from a cryptozoology standpoint and from a field of investigation.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that we know was very instrumental is we know from the work of Garth and other people in Italy that many of the pterosaurs have a bioluminescence. That's very important to remember. And the ones here, most of them we know of, have bioluminescence as well. We were told, I guess the way Pete and I got involved in it, we were told by someone who had been told by a friend that he had seen a pterosaur on a branch of a tree perched above the Yakima River. Apparently this creature was walking down and getting fish out of the river in the early morning. Well, it was a time of year when you only got about 8 hours of darkness. So if they're nocturnal, there's going to be some hours of light that are going to be out there. So this creature was there in the early morning sitting on a branch catching fish. The first time the guy went by, he had an early morning job starting at 6 a.m. I think Hanford, you'd be a reservation. So like 5:30, he's driving by these trees, sees this pterosaur sitting on the branch. And he figured his eyes must have been deceiving him, but a few days later, he went by the branch again, and there it was. We had a friend that he knew that was a creationist, and so he told him about it, and he told another friend of ours who had a very popular website dealing with those subjects, and he knew us, and so he called us, would you like to go up and check this out? So we said, yes, we would like to go up and check that out. And we came up and we met with the guy who originally saw this and told us the exact tree where he had seen it. We went up there just before it got totally dark, parked the car maybe 150 yards away. And when we got out of the car, the tree lit up like it was on fire. A fire was contained in the center of the tree. It went up through the tree and then did a curlicue in the sky and then went off and went out. So there was some creature that made this light, and it was a big creature. I mean, that there was quite a large spot where this light was.
Is that pretty surprising to hear about something like that in the States? Is that baffling to you? And so you just considering you just came back from Africa, where you would think, hey, that's where these creatures may be contained, or be restricted to.
It was kind of surprising. However, we couldn't deny what our eyes saw. And since then, we've seen the light several other times and also had a sound that we heard that was very convincing. So basically, we just had to figure out why is it that these creatures, and we have very many other people who have seen these creatures and talked about them, how is it that they are able to not be seen? So for one thing that impressed me, human beings are not aware to the extent these wild creatures are aware of their surroundings. When we went to Africa, we went 100 miles up a very primitive river. We know there were crocodiles on the river, there were large snakes, There were gorillas. We heard them on our video camera early in the morning. We hear gorilla sounds. There were many other creatures that you associate with the jungles of Africa. We didn't see hardly anything. They knew we were there. We had a very quiet engine, really.
10 horse.
Outboard that was very quiet, but to actually not alert these animals at all, we would have just been floating. And even then, I don't know. But, and then, of course, that's not accounting for the rotor in the water, which we couldn't hear, of course, but an animal down in the water could hear that. So our original intention was to go up to this waterfall that we knew about, which natives had told us the creatures had been seen up there, and to float back down as quiet as we could possibly. Unfortunately, as quite often happens with these things, all your plans don't work out exactly the way you planned. We got held up a few days here and a few days there, and by the time we were this far into the expedition, we were on a schedule. We had to get back in time to catch our flights. So we had to use power to get back down the river. And so that kind of destroyed our chance at that time of getting admitted. But we've had some other people on the river that have actually heard the sound of the creature, that the natives say that's the sound. So we know it's somewhere in there. Years ago, I went to New York to visit with G. Thomas, who was with Roy Mackle when he went to Africa looking for this creature. Now, Roy was a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, but he believed in the creature, had 2 expeditions there in 80 and 81. And Roy was hosted by G. Thomas, who had been a missionary at Fondo for 42 years, right in the heart of the Lake Wall Swamp. And I asked Roy at the time, or not Roy, but Gene, how many of these creatures he thought were in the whole Lake Wall Swamp. We're talking about 1 million square miles, a third the size of the United States. So how many creatures do you think there are in this whole swamp? This is, I guess, maybe a couple under. Now we're talking about a creature, if you're under the water, can stay under for maybe an hour or two, then move around while they're under the water. And if you ever do see them, their head sticking up, feeding on the bank, looks like a snake. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world are we ever going to find this creature? Well, the only answer that Pete and I had come up with is very good, is that you talk to the natives, because they occasionally will accidentally see one, like the fishermen that go far out. That's really the only time I know of where some of the locals have seen it. And even then, it's very rare. I don't know if I covered all the basins. If I haven't, Pete,
well,
so yeah.
I'm curious why this display you have here on easel worked here. Tell me about that.
Oh, this is our site that we do our expeditions on. We've done it over a period of 8 years or 15 years, something like that. We keep going back to the same site. I thought I'd just to document some of these sightings that we've had, I put them on here. This isn't all of them. This is maybe a tenth of them. But I think some of the more interesting ones. I'll do the most benign first. Coming out from it was in the air and landing just off. We're right here, right across from us in the other side of the river. This is the Yakima River. Yeah, this is a bank. So it's maybe 100 yards of streak. We call them streaks. I don't know what you'd call them. They're lights that if you thought they were a meteorite striking the atmosphere, they go zip like that.
Just like a plasma trail.
Yeah, like a plasma trail. Oh, they're not, but I mean, that's what they look like. And some of them are short, some of them are fat, some of them are long. We've had another one that went from the other side into the river. We've had them walking along the river where we're here, and we see these lights. Milt saw them actually fly down. from this angle, like here. And then what we see is a small light, maybe the size of a softball, that's not glowing. It's not very bright. It's just from that angle, it's like a very soft light, maybe the size of a softball or maybe a little bit larger. And then the light would go out and you'd hear a splash. We thought the animal that had the light was, this wasn't a human. This was actually an animal that's wading in water that's about maybe this deep or maybe this deep. I don't know, something like that. And you're not going to find a human doing that at 10 o'clock at night, holding a flashlight. At any rate, then the light would go out, and then the light would come on again. It wouldn't be moving, and as the light comes on, you hear it goes out, and then you hear another splash, like they nailed another fish. And this went on several times. I wouldn't say it was exactly 5 times, or it could be 6 times. It could have been 4 times. I don't remember exactly the number, but Milt will verify that this is what we heard and saw, on and off. Here's another one. Milt can tell you about this one better than I can. It was coming down the river, and you thought it was going to land on the other side, and it landed on our side. Yeah.
The side off to our right, remember where we're at, about where you see the end up there was where it started. And then it came down the hill, and I thought it was landing on the far side of the river, but it apparently came across and landed on our side. But there's a bunch of brush and small vegetation between where we were and where the creature was. And not long after it came down the hill, we heard this and like that. And it was extremely loud. And so I figured, well, I'm going to sneak down there and brush.
So we went from here to here. Yeah.
But when I got to about almost to where the sound was coming from, the sound ended. I waited for another 5 to 10 minutes, never heard any more sound. So I walked back up to where he was. Now,
okay, the next day, I'd been down there too with him at that time, and what he said was exactly what happened. The next morning, I got up and I said to the group that we were with, I said, listen for me now, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to yell. And I went down to this area right here, which was about, I'd say 100 yards, something like that. And I yelled at the top of my lungs, and I looked it up, and my yelling would probably have been around 60 decibels, which is, makes your throat sore. And I came back and I asked them, did you hear this? And they didn't hear it very, very loudly at all. It was kind of muted. So I did a little math and I came to the conclusion that this was an animal that was making a sound that was more in general like a jet engine, only over the bank, on the other side of the bank. Yes, but I don't think it was projecting it at us. I think it was just projecting.
Okay. Of course
It could have been, but why?
Because it knew we were there.
Well, maybe.
They don't like to be around people.
That would make more sense that they were projecting.
But it's a projection, and they know how to focus it. Yeah, you're from or they can really, like, over a mile away. They can
hear lions.
Okay, all right.
And in my own research, I think I've seen some similar things under different conditions. Similar things.
Mm-hmm. I would characterize it as like cross between a mountain lion or a lion type animal and a crow, and it was combined into something that sounded very, very different than anything else I'd ever heard. And I've heard a lot of animal sounds. Yeah. But it sounded like a very large animal.
That's really awesome that you guys were here. And they heard it together, which is really it.
There were like 4 of us there, weren't they? Something like that.
We're the only ones there right at that.
Yeah, here. But I'm talking, we had, Wayne was with us, maybe in a, yeah. Right. And in case you're wondering where this is, it's somewhere in this area right here. It's called kind of in the Yakima Valley. And that's where we're at right now.
The name to the gorge that is it for Columbia River Gorge?
Yeah, the Columbia River is right here, and the Columbia River Gorge goes up and around. The gorge is from about here to about here. But, yeah. Yeah, the Yakima flows down here like this and enters at about Pasco. Another thing that's interesting about this area right here has a different microclimate than anything around it. That during the summer it becomes balmy. It gets warm, stays warm. That's why they grow a lot of fruit trees in this area. It's almost, I wouldn't say tropical, but it's certainly not cold, and it's not. It's a different kind of an area, and there's a lot of fish in this in the Yakima. And when the water goes down and the fish are more concentrated, we can see fish jumping all night and all day while we're there. So there are plenty of fish, and especially when the salmon come up and they breed up here. The small fry that are probably an inch or two long, are coming downstream, and apparently that's what the pelicans and the cormorants are feeding on, and possibly the pterosaurs. Yeah, Yakima is a tributary of the Columbia.
Well, you're well aware of this. Every time we hear about pterosaurs, we find that they like fish. That's number one on their menu. So it's no surprise that a river full of fish.
That has been stated to me since 2004 when I went to Papua New Guinea. And even Dr. Baugh, in his trip in 1993, 94, and 96, they all say the same thing. They eat seafood. They also are carrion eaters.
Yes.
So if there's something dead on land, they'll take advantage of it. Yeah. But the live stuff seems to be and matured water. But even her trouts were stationed.
In case you're wondering what we're talking about when you say streaks, this is a picture I took from where we're standing. Will be when we're doing our observations tonight. We're looking upriver, up the Yakima, and we'd see streaks that would look just about like that picture right there. Some of them are that long, not many, but to give you an idea, chop it up, that would be a streak. Half of that or a third of that.
How long when you're talking about? What's the girth of that? The hell?
I don't know.
Give it a shot. Just a gut feeling. Pretty small.
Baseball? Golf ball? So, what would you say? It may be larger than that, you know?
Something in the dark is really...
But the key thing here is it's a chemical reaction. The light is moving faster than the animal can possibly move. So it's a chemical reaction. What I was
see the lights or just occasionally?
When the lights are there, we'll probably see 10 of them a night, something like that. It's 10 good ones, huh?
They don't have a sky background. They have a tree or terrestrial background.
There are some that are in the sky. You might call those shooting stars. Wouldn't call them what I'm talking about, these bioluminescent things. But when they come below the tree line or the background, yeah. They may start off in the sky, but they end up down below the skyline. That's obviously not a shooting star. Something else is going on there, something biological.
How close to the river have you seen these lots?
Well, we've seen them go right into the river. Yeah.
Wow.
Or on the water. It's hard to tell because it's dark.
Yeah.
And the light that they're making.
Haven't heard them land in the water. Haven't heard a splash, like a duck or a goose.
Like it's right over the water.
Yeah. The reason one of the reasons I want to show you here, we had this particular one sighting that I had, two different sightings I wanted to point out. One of them is right about above us at an angle about like so from where I'm standing, like that. We saw like a flash bulb go off, only it was a big flash bulb with no sound, just pop like that. And then we heard screams of nighthawks, which are a kind of insect-eating sparrow, large sparrow, whippoorwills, if you will. And then a second or two later, pop, another one in the same general area, kind of like this, like there was a pair of animals feeding together in the same way.
You say the pop is a strobe flash kind of thing?
It's a strobe, yeah, it's like a strobe. Okay. It's not, it's just pop, like that. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, many times.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good to know that other people have seen it too. And then the other one was another pair of lights, only in this case it started about halfway from us to some trees, which are about 200 yards away, and the streaks went into the trees, one after the other, not two at a time, but whoop, whoop, like that. And I walked down there into the trees, kind of not knowing what I was getting into, but I couldn't find anything. Of course, I wasn't looking real hard with a flashlight. I just was looking and using moonlight. Wasn't very prepared for that. I never expected to need a flashlight to do that.
So
But-
I'm sorry, real quick. You're saying the lights are going in?
in and out of trees or bushes?
Yeah, in that particular case, they went right into the trees.
And then we had the earlier situation, the first one, where it came out of the tree.
So this really rules out any kind of plane, helicopter, or stars, shooting stars or meteors, anything like that. Just totally rules that out.
Yeah, we're talking about 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning.
Big cars if it's going in and out of a tree.
Well, we have seen all these things. We've seen car reflection, light reflections from cars. Lots of that.
You walk over and you can verify.
Yeah.
what it is.
When the Perseids are the meteor showers, we see lots of that too. We're not fooled by that. Even if it's an animal that's doing that, we discount it because they look so much like a shooting star. But these are not shooting stars.
Right. Yeah. In other words, if they don't stand out and do something that a shooting star or other known light could do, you don't count.
No,
It's got to do something significantly different.
something like this is maybe 1 out of 10 of the streaks that we see. Yeah.
I'm curious, what colors are these lights?
Well, in our experience here, they're all white.
White.
Yeah.
Pure white or like a yellowish white?
I think they're just pure white.
I've noticed most of your white, but in New Guinea,
If you want me to get into that, I can get into that.
I'd like to get in just a little bit, yes.
To the New Guinea,
Well, we're talking about lights. So is that so?
it has to do with light. Okay. In Papua New Guinea, we lived in a little settlement, a village called Guerra. The Atta people. They called themselves Atta because they lived next to Mount Atta. And Mount Atta was, as I'm looking at it right now, like from here down the valley. There's a valley right in front of us here. We're at 4,000 feet. Atta, if we're here, okay, about here, looking at Mount Atta, okay? And right from the top of Mount Atta, which is about a mile and a half, mile and a quarter to this ridge that's in front of us, we're about maybe 2 miles away from that. So Mount Atta is something like 3 to 4 miles away from us. But still, it's quite obvious where Mount Atta is. We can see it even at night with the background with the stars and everything. There was a red streak and this happened twice. We had a red streak go from just below the top of Mount Ada down to this ridge. And it was about that long. I did the calculation, and the calculation was somewhere around a half a mile to a little over a mile, a little more of 3/4 of a mile, half a mile, somewhere in there is the distance that streak went. But it did it in a couple seconds. If you do the math, that's way too fast for any kind of animal. It has to be a chemical reaction. We call that bioluminescence. I have no better solution for than to call it bioluminescence. It's kind of like the combination of two chemicals coming together with the result being, instead of heat, light. And then I saw about 15 minutes later, I saw this a light go back up the hill. And it went in the same direction it came down. So red light. So I've seen red lights and I've seen white lights. Yeah, that's again another thing. Yeah, if you're going uphill, you're probably going slower than you're going downhill, right? That just makes sense. But the speed of the streak were the same. That to me says it's a chemical reaction.
So you think a chemical reaction could cause a red streak?
Mm-hmm. And white.
The skeptics would probably say that seems impossible. And a lot of the skeptics would say that only deep creatures of the deep ocean could probably emit light, but a crawdad or some sort of creature other than that kind of aquatic fish wouldn't. What's your reply to that?
That it couldn't be red?
Well,
it was red. That's my reply.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because most people would think something like this absurd to think of a red flash coming from an animal.
Mm-hmm.
Creature.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's proof.
Well, I can tell you this. From Mount Ada or over Mount Ada, I saw lots of white streaks. Bright white streaks, just like the ones we see in the United States. Okay. The reason I mention the red streaks is I'd never seen a red streak before. I couldn't believe a red streak, and then I saw the streak going red up. I couldn't forget that.
Well, it's interesting because Garth had mentioned that they communicate differently, different colors, parts of the world. Would you say? I'm just thinking it could be very likely that they use their lights to communicate with each other in various ways, whether it's mating, courtship, whether it's maybe using it for hunting and they're using a particular frequency of light, whether it's white or yellow or red, to take a flash and they quick view before they go in for the kill.
Yep.
On the fly. They could be using certain colors to say to another male, hey, this is my area. Or to a female, hey, come on over here. They could be using the lights for all those kinds of things. They could be using lights for, hey, my name's Bob. What's your name? They could be using lights for them.
Well, there's some creatures, and these may be one of them, who use the light to tell others where food is.
And, in fact, real high-end social behavior.
Yeah.
Wow.
These are, I believe, smart creatures.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, most alien types are generally very smart.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't a flying reptile be the same?
Oh, well, here's another thing about this ridge. We were told by, wasn't Friday? No, it was Samuel. I think it was Samuel that was telling us on the other side of this ridge, there's a creek that runs, and there's a pool. And he says he's been over there, which is only like 3 miles walk around to get to this point. He says he's seen the pterosaurs feeding on animals that were coming to the little pond or the little creek, where the water was wider. And that they kind of hold themselves up, wait, and when something comes down, like a little pig or something like that, then they go down on them. And so it's a place where they can feed.
Saying if one of these flying creatures potentially could be feeding a little pig.
Right. And it would have been just about where this animal was going into ravine. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, but this was during the day, in fact. His sighting was during the day. Of course, he's a young man. He's like, what, 20, 25? I don't know, something like that. He did that when he was like a teenager or an 18-year-old, something like that. So
All your years of researching both your own eyesight and researching others who have seen it, how many of them have seen the creature during the day as a ratio from those that saw it?
very rare during the day.
Yeah. It's a very low ratio, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
The main habitat I feel for these creatures is off to the east. You could probably go 25 miles this way without seeing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfect terrain for them. So I think the rookery was over here. They only occasionally wander over here where these tribes live.
I did the Google map or Google Earth, and I came up to about the same altitude that the animal that we saw was for this particular mountain, and you can actually see the Pacific Ocean on the other side. So we're not that far from a feeding area in the Pacific Ocean.
I mean, New Britain, the whole island from north to
South is what?
North to south is 50 mile.
I was going to say about 50 miles.
Yeah, and then maybe what is it, 250? Yeah, 250 miles far.
Flying creature? 50 miles?
That's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that we saw was on our 6th day there. It was up here, and it was just corkscrewing on the farmhouse that we're growing up, and it was just going like this every now and then, flap its wing.
You're talking about what you saw in the daytime in Galilee?
Yeah, one that we saw in the daytime there. And it just kept winding, getting higher, and then it just drifted off this direction into a cloud. That's how high it was.
And so you never saw it disappear. You just saw it go into a cloud, and that's how you lost it.
Yeah.
One thing.
That gives you some idea how high it was, because the clouds were higher than the mountains around us.
Yeah.
But it was much lower when we first saw it.
Let's talk about Papua New Guinea and what we saw at Papua New Guinea. We had about 150 frames of the animal, and I blew up a picture of the frame. This is not enhanced that much. This is what we saw floating above us, and I wanted to do a comparison for everyone to see what a pelican looked like, which we saw.
Yeah.
We saw eagles. We saw hornbills. Hornbills are easy to spot. You can hear them coming. We saw large bats. Bats like that, okay? They're easy to tell the difference between them and this because bats fly. Their flight is like this. This animal didn't move its wings much at all. If it moved it at all, it was just sort of tacking from here to here, all right? The frigate bird. They love this one, the frigate bird. It must be a frigate bird. Well, for one thing, a frigate bird is much smaller than this animal that we saw. I don't think we'd even been able to detect a frigate bird at the altitude that we were seeing it. Oh, the frigate birds, you think so? Yeah, it's my arms. I'm doing a frigate bird thing here. An eagle would be almost twice that. The biggest eagles that we saw. Yeah. The pelicans are pretty darn big. We didn't see any spoonbills, but spoonbills have this long neck. And you often see the pterosaur, especially the big pteranodons, you see them with their necks stretched out.
And look at the tail on the frigate bird.
Yeah, the tail on the frigate bird is also a tail for a frigate bird. There was no tail like this. What we saw was this little stump. Notice the swept, the way the wings are. It was like a cape. Like each arm had a cape. with its wrist cocked way back like so.
And then the knobs out of.
And then we had the knobs. These knobs were, birds they have these, these angles.
Stott saw, which we assume is similar. She said she could see the sculpting under the wings, how the skin was draped over the bone. So it sounds very similar to what it saw her.
Now, as far as the skin goes on this, could you make out much detail? Is the details of the muscles or the skin or just the general shape? General arms or anything? It was all blended in.
Right.
Seemed like it was kind of dark in the footage I saw. This is the exact depiction of what you saw, what you recorded.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then you have the skeptics who say, okay, it was definitely a frigate bird because you have something that kind of looks pterodactyloid in the shape here. But I think you could probably determine feathers
on a creature from that distance. Could you?
Yeah, at the end of it's like this with a turkey vulture or some of these vultures.
Yeah.
Or a hornbill or the eagle or even the pelican. You can see the feathers.
Light shines through some of these feathers too.
Yeah, right.
Pelican and the frigate bird, you can see a point where the wing comes out to a point. This was curved.
Yeah, and the curve itself is so unusual. It's not like anything else I'd ever seen.
I knew instantly when I saw that was dark.
Yeah. Now Milt had watched the thing the whole time. I mean, he had visual. I was just trying to make the camera work, so I wasn't looking at it all the time. In fact, I probably only saw it maybe 30 seconds if I added it all up.
What was the estimation of how high up it was?
Well, probably we were at 4,000 feet. It was probably another couple thousand feet. It was about Atta level. The mountain. Oh, yeah. When I first saw it, and he first was yelling at me about it, it was much lower. That's where he got the best view of it of all.
And what was your advantage flight height-wise? Was it less than 1,000?
Between 500 and 1,000.
500 and 1,000.
Oh, yeah. And so we spent about the next 5 minutes watching this bird. It was hot. The middle of the day, hot in the tropics. So there was a farm outside of us there. You didn't need the black watch.
It kind of went up into the clouds, and there were just very, very few clouds up in there, and the clouds were about the same height as Atta, which would be around 6,000 feet. So the highest it was only 2,000 feet above us.
Okay. I got a question for Pete. As Milt, you both saw the potential wing claws on the front leading edge of the wings, and you drew them like we drew them. Is that based on a little bump in the picture you saw?
Yeah. No, that was just a picture.
Okay, so this is an accurate ratio of where the claws were on the wing.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known where to fake it. I just put it where it was.
So I'm just looking at this.
What's it? What?
Yeah, I see it. Now, you guys tell me whether you think I'm accurate. Is that about a third of the way out on the wing, or is it halfway out?
Well, if the end of the wing is actually here, and this is the last digit from here,
And about all the way to the end of the last digit.
of the end of the last digit, about a third then.
About a third?
Yeah.
A third?
Yeah.
That matches the ratio of not a
Pterodactyloid, but a rhamphorhynchoid.
Oh, really?
Rhamphorhynchoids have longer wings for their body size.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a tail.
There's several varieties
These that don't have tail.
Oh, really?
However, most of them are diminutive, but they're small.
Yeah. Well,
There's a precedence there.
I have a little more to talk about. Are we done here? This one? Okay, we'll still go longer. Okay, well, I got something else here. I wanted to know what the size of this thing might be. So I did some triangulation and some math, and I came up with the most likely is about 16 feet, from wingtip to wingtip.
Plus or minus 20.
Yeah.
How did you come to that conclusion?
Based upon the angle that we were looking at it, the distance we were from it. You can do the trigonometry from there. And these are based on
The clouds, so you have an idea how high this cloud.
Yeah, the clouds were about as high as Ada, so 6,000 feet. Yeah, when we were getting most of the video, it wasn't that high. And they weren't very big. The clouds were very sparse and small.
So one of the difficulties that we had, why you probably couldn't hit it enough if you find it, is the sun was coming through those white clouds and it just blinded it when you looked up at it.
Yeah. But I was able to hold the camera like here and look up and sort of estimate, like point and shoot, kind of a thing. Yeah. That's I didn't have any other choice.
Right. So did the natives give any indication that they thought this was a relatively large, big, giant one, or did they give an indication that of all the other ones, this was kind of mundane, normal size, or even small? Did they give an indication?
No, they don't have that much experience with it.
That was it.
And they say
the people we talked to that were familiar with this creature were older. Two of the most helpful older men that worked with us said that when they were about 12, one of the missionaries who was there, which I assume this is not long after the missionaries came to Denny, shot one with the gun, really, and they cooked it, and it yielded 3 pots, big pots full of meat. So those older folks were very familiar with what we're talking about, and I am assuming that they told some of the younger folks, because the day when we saw it, we had a lot of people, old and young, yelling, "Big bird, big bird, big bird." They knew that's what we were looking for, and they were really helpful. Again, we worked right in the middle of their habitat. So we were off on the edge, so we were fortunate to have seen it. In fact, maybe the only reason we saw it at all is because there had been this cyclone go through there just a few days before. And as I told you earlier, they always said they're more likely to see one if there's been a cyclone recently.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's really interesting. I'm just wondering, how often do they see it? Is it like extremely rare?
Yeah.
Say it's just a handful of people in a whole village that have really seen them?
We're there for, I don't know how many years, a few years.
Yeah.
And Steve and his dad said they saw them eye in the sky on 2 or 3 occasions. And Harriet had the one occasion where she saw one from 20 feet away for 5 minutes.
Right.
Other than that, they had no other sightings. So that gives you an idea how rare it is.
Now, Steve Sconce told me, over an 18-month period of time, they saw a total of 8 times.
Oh, he did?
One time when he heard the sound, he saw the creature and they heard it making the sound. But another time, he said he heard the sound, looked up, and saw the creature. His wife, Crystal, was near him, so she was able to see it and back it up. All the rest of the sightings, he saw by himself. And then his mom saw it by herself. And then his dad saw it by himself. But when his dad saw it, it was in a tandem group of 3.
Right.
One went right behind the other.
Yeah.
But he said, Pete, that he kind of thought the beak looked like a spoonbill beak.
Interesting. I never heard
He
that.
said he could clearly see skin. When the wings were flapping, he saw the muscles around the neck. And the definition of the muscles in the neck, he said, because I saw that, I know I was seeing skin. There was no feathers covering and distorting the skin underneath. So I thought that was kind of interesting that Marv Stones would say that.
Very. Was that Marv or Steve?
Marv, his dad.
Oh.
Who I tried to ask him, what was it covered with? Skin, scale, hair, feathers. And then he said, I saw the muscles. They were rippling on the neck as it was flying. And it had to have skin. And I thought that was, the way he described that is so very credible.
If you saw the film when I interviewed Harriet, but she was quite adamant that it was in.
Yeah. Well, and now she was only, what, 3 feet away?
Yeah, last she was right next to the creature.
Yeah. It's like from here to that tree over there.
We're going to have to go a little bit faster now. Do you have
Okay.
another image?
Yeah. This is Harriet Sconce. Her picture tells her story and what she saw, but we have a video of that. You could look at that.
And then out the back of its head was a crest. I saw something that I had only before witnessed in books. I didn't know there were such creatures at all. But it had a big wingspan. It had a very sharp, long beak. I never saw it open, but a long, narrow beak. I was actually terrified because it was such an unusual thing, and it's the same area that my husband and Steve saw the 3 other ones going down the branch of another river. I could take you there today, and I know what I saw.
This is a tree that Samuel took one of our what do you call them? The little camera. Yeah, they're little tiny cameras. He took it and climbed down the hill and around, and this is a tree that he said had a nest in it. But after the hurricane, the nest was down on the ground. It had been blown off. But he wanted to at least get a picture of the tree for me. So there is a picture of the tree in white. This would be where Samuel was standing next to the tree. So you can get an idea. These are huge trees. They pick huge trees. Yeah.
200 feet.
And then the nest you talk.
It's more like a conglomeration that comes up like this, and they're down in it, and it's also covered. Has an opening in the front. It's more like a cave, only made out of wood.
Maybe making that?
Yeah.
That's the first I've heard that. Wow.
Well, that's what Samuel was telling us about it. He wanted to get a picture of the nest. He says there are many, like 3, 4. It's like a family lives in this thing. And I would say it would be, we're talking about 10 feet wide, probably 7 feet high, and something like that. He said that they like orchids, and they have orchids on the outside, and some birds and bats are kind of like their sentries, will alert them to things. So this is coming from them. I'm not making this up. This is New Britain, yeah. This is where we were. Also, Samuel said that their eggs are about the size of a pomelo. And that's a pomelo. So it gives you an idea what size of the eggs are. Yeah. Well, Lumboy is here. This is Papua New Guinea. This is New Britain. And this is Lumboy here.
Right.
And Bikini.
It's all Papua New Guinea, but you're
Talking about the mainland of Papua New Guinea.
Oh, this is the mainland of Papua New Guinea, right? Right across.
So the heart of the main island.
Yeah.
Lumboy.
Yeah.
So the stuff happened, all of these sightings, including where you were all in a pretty compact area.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I could actually see New Britain from, that's how close they are.
Yeah. Really?
A little distance, but I could see the landmark. Found it. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, I have one more. I had more, but I didn't bring them all. And this one is sort of people's depictions of what they might look like. We think that the animal was pteranodon, which means it had no teeth. It was tailless or had a small tail. Yeah. However, with your experience and others' experience on Umboy, that's a rhamphorhynchoid, a large rhamphorhynchoid with a long tail.
If you look at your actual I'm going to go over.
Okay.
The pterodactyloid right here, it should be, if it's portrayed right, that should be half in the middle. And actually, it's a little off. I could see that this should be right in the middle. We split that wing in two by distance, and that's where the pterodactyloids have their flaws. So if they're a little less in the tall wing ratio, at about a third, so I'm saying that's what you seem to have here. And you just trace this from the actual photograph.
Right.
Of a still shot from your film.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Very good, Pete.
But one thing I might say too, as far as the tail goes, if it was one of those long, really thin tails, at the height it was, we just might not have been able to see it.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
We could also see knuckles. With the picture, once you blew it up, you could see there are 3 knuckles.
Okay, so you could make out actual 3 attachment points for potential flaws. Well, that's really amazing.
Another thing was its neck. It's got a long neck, a fairly long neck, and a big head, but we couldn't see much of a head or a neck. So we think it's probably more like a pelican, where it holds its neck back like this in an S. And here's the depiction of it. If it has its neck out like you usually see a picture of it, I think with its size of the head, the center of gravity is way too far forward to be a efficient flyer. You'd be trying to collect yourself all the time, keep from falling, head first. So this picture, the video that we got, to me looks more like it's got a head or neck that's tucked back like a pelican.
We were like directly out for it. You look at the bottom side of it, so the body would have been these. Yeah, I obviously had a head,
right?
But we just couldn't see it.
Another thing is, if you look at that picture right there, a little different than the other one. One of them is bent and one of them isn't bent so much. This one has a bend, sharp bend, which is very odd. And this one has more of a bat-like wing.
Do you think that could have been the angle or something?
Well, I think what's going on is when they turn, they're able to bend this part of it and make this scalloped look.
He was turning in the one direction.
Oh, he could turn anyway. Yeah. Yeah. It would be like this. And if it wanted to turn, you could see little things kind of moving like this. And then he'd go over there. And then you like this. I saw him flap a little bit. There was just a few like this, but mostly it was just a turn.
So tonight we're going to go to the Yakima River, and you're going to show us what you saw there, right here in the United States.
That's going to be exciting.
Well, we just, when I first started out with the picture of the Yakima, we're going to be right there, and I'll show you all the different ways.
It's going to be so awesome. Well,
hopefully they show you another pterosaur.
Yeah.
If we get lucky.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate
I appreciate you being here. This video nicely done, well put together, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it is. Right, that's good rap, Pete. They're good displays. Thank you, Milt.
Fantastic, Milt. I'm glad you're there.
Yeah, but there was some synergy here. It really brought out the best of both. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I count on him. She's got these names. He's got these times, these dates. I don't know why I can't remember.